Gyeongju, a city that holds 1,000 years of history. The cherished values, preserved over time, have shaped who we are today. Now, through new encounters, we step into a better future. Sustainability, innovation. With the spirit of connection, a new millennium story begins. As APEC and Gyeongju come together, APEC meets Gyeongju.
The moment we wear it, our spirits lift. It helps us grow strong in body and in mind. As we wear it, we learn patience and respect. The belt system motivates students to strive harder and continue growing. This uniform shapes movement into grace and turns performance into something thrilling. Now, embraced around the world, Taekwondo shares our culture, philosophy, and values with pride and spirit. Though it may seem simple, this uniform holds your passion and your journey. It belongs to Taekwondo. Wear the extraordinary. Be with Taekwondo.
President Lee Jae-myung took his economic diplomacy to the New York Stock Exchange, urging global financiers to invest in South Korea. We have a wrap-up of his United Nations debut. The ruling Democratic Party has reached the required supermajority to end an opposition filibuster, immediately pushing through a contentious government restructuring bill, including reshaping the prosecution agency. In a historic broadcast from the courtroom, former President Yoon has pleaded not guilty to all charges related to his December martial law declaration. We take you to the courtroom. Good evening. Welcome to Newscenter. I'm Kim Do-yeon. We begin with President Lee Jae-myung's visit to the New York Stock Exchange, where he sought to attract more global investment before heading back to Seoul. Our presidential office correspondent Song Yoo-jin starts us off.
This is South Korean President Lee Jae-myung ringing the iconic opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange on Thursday. At the world's largest stock exchange by trading volume and the oldest on Wall Street, President Lee hosted the Korea Investment Summit, where he urged heavyweight financiers and business leaders to invest more in South Korea. The key topic was the so-called Korea discount, a term describing how South Korean companies are often undervalued compared to their global peers. President Lee cited geopolitical tensions on the Korean peninsula as a major cause.
남북 대치, 군사적 대치 때문에 오는 불안정성, 이로 인한 저평가, 휴전 중인 나라인데 또 군사 밀도도 높고 혹시 무슨 일 생기지 않을까?
Highlighting North Korea's advances in missile technology, Lee emphasized his three-stage roadmap of nuclear suspension, reduction, and eventual denuclearization. He once again described U.S. President Donald Trump as the only one capable of brokering such a deal, a peacemaker, while pledging that South Korea will act as a pacemaker, supporting the process. The president also outlined measures to make South Korea's investment environment more transparent and trustworthy, including stricter action against stock manipulation and unfair trading practices, and further amendments to the Commercial Act to better protect minority and individual investors. Regarding foreign investors, Lee pledged to resolve issues that many of them see as barriers to entry.
핵심은 역시 이제 이게 환거래 시장 문제라고 제가 들었습니다. 그 문제도 저희가 아주 빠른 시간 내에 저희가 해결 또 해소할 생각입니다. 지금 외국환 거래 시장도 지금 시간 제한이 꽤 있는데 그 시간 제한을 거의 없애는 방향으로.
Currently, South Korea's foreign exchange market operates from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. the following day, and the Korean won lacks a full offshore trading market. While Lee is the fourth South Korean president to host such an investment event in New York, he was the first to hold it at the New York Stock Exchange. So, with this, President Lee has wrapped up his trip to New York, which focused on diplomacy and economic outreach. He will return home on South Korea's presidential jet on Friday. 송유진, Arirang News, New York.
Now, President Lee Jae-myung has wrapped up his trip to New York, having made his debut at the UN. Our correspondent Yoon Jung-min, who's traveling with the president, has a recap of the trip and takes a look at what it means for Korea's diplomacy.
The highlight of President Lee Jae-myung's week-long U.S. trip was his first speech at the 80th United Nations General Assembly.
저는 오늘 세계 시민의 등불이 될 새로운 대한민국이 국제사회에 완전히 복귀했음을 당당하게 선언합니다.
He was referring to Korea's recovery from the martial law incident last December as he introduced a new initiative to end confrontation on the Korean peninsula.
교류, 관계 정상화, 비핵화, 즉 END를 중심으로 한 포괄적인 대화로 한반도에서의 적대와 대결의 시대를 종식하고 평화 공존과 공동 성장의 새 시대를 열어가야 합니다.
Another key takeaway was South Korea leading an open debate at the UN Security Council for the responsible use of AI at a time of growing uncertainty. No other South Korean leader has presided over the debate as chair.
대한민국은 글로벌 책임 강국으로서 AI가 인류의 지속 가능한 미래를 만드는 훌륭한 도구가 될 수 있도록 국제사회와의 협력을 주도하는 길에 앞장설 것입니다.
Lee's UN debut means a lot for Korea's summit diplomacy, says his national security advisor, Ri Sung-nak.
President Lee's trip to the United Nations shows summit diplomacy is now on a stable trajectory, something which has unfolded very quickly since the G7 summit right after he took office in June.
Economic diplomacy was also at the center, with Lee having met BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, American financiers, and leaders from European countries, including the Czech Republic, for economic cooperation. The president also met U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent amid the allies' stalled trade talks to lower Trump's sweeping tariffs.
This was President Lee's debut on the UN stage, a major platform for multilateral diplomacy and dialogue. As he concludes his U.S. trip, more summit diplomacy awaits the South Korean leader at home next month with APEC member economies. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News, New York.
The National Assembly is once again in gridlock, with one filibuster scheduled after another as the main opposition stalls contentious legislation from passing through Parliament. Standing by live is our Moon Hae-ryun to tell us more. Hae-ryun, what's happening in the plenary session right now?
Well, Toyan, it's been over 24 hours since the filibuster that was launched by the main opposition People Power Party began in an attempt to stall the passing of the DP-backed government restructuring bill. That filibuster has now come to an end after a motion submitted by the ruling Democratic Party passed with the required supermajority, 3/5 of sitting lawmakers. Following the end of the filibuster, the DP immediately moved to pass the bill to amend the Government Organization Act. Of the 180 votes cast, 174 lawmakers voted for, 1 voted against, and 5 abstained from voting. This contentious bill has been at the center of partisan conflict as it would overhaul several key agencies, including the Prosecution Service, the Ministry of Economy and Finance, the Ministry of Environment, and the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy. The bill originally targeted the Financial Services Commission too, but an emergency meeting between the ruling Democratic Party, government and presidential officials yesterday saw those plans being dropped. They said financial governance should not become a political flashpoint, warning that uncertainty could hinder efforts to tackle economic crises.
Right, so what's next on the agenda for this lengthy plenary session?
Well, the DP proposed 4 contentious bills for this plenary session, and the PPP has vowed to filibuster each of them. So the plenary session is currently under its second filibuster. So now that we're down by one, we're on to the next, which is an amendment to the Act of the Establishment and Operation of the Korea Communications Commission. That legislation would scrap the KCC and replace it with a new Broadcasting, Media and Telecommunications Commission. The new body would assume the KCC's current responsibilities and also take on additional media promotion functions, including the oversight of paid broadcasting. As the new filibuster will take another 24 hours before lawmakers can vote to end the debate, the DP will only be able to pass this bill tomorrow evening. With one bill passing through per day, this plenary session is expected to continue for a few days yet. And that's all I have for now, so back to you, Toyan.
Right, thank you so much for that, Hyun. Now, today, former President Yoon Suk-yeol, charged with an attempted insurrection and unlawful imposition of martial law, appeared before the public for the first time since being arrested in July. This first hearing for a case brought up by the special probe team against his insurrection allegations was broadcast for the public to watch closely. Our Moon Ji-young reports.
피고인 성명이 어떻게 되시죠?
Even a former head of state, Yoon Suk-yeol, was subject to the same legal formalities as any other defendant in a courtroom. Dressed in a dark navy suit and appearing visibly thinner, Yoon entered the courtroom wearing his inmate number 3617 on his chest. He denied all charges during an initial hearing of a trial brought by special prosecutors investigating his attempted insurrection and imposition of martial law. This marks the first instance that lower court trial proceedings were partially broadcast with the media allowed to film the moment Yoon entered the court.
Considering the public's right to know, the necessity of a fair trial, and the principle of presumption of innocence for the defendant, the court allowed video recording and photography exclusively to pre-approved personnel for this specific case, and only prior to the commencement of the public trial.
The rest of the hearing was recorded by a third party chosen by the court, was later distributed to other media outlets, but only for this first hearing. Yoon is already standing trial on charges of leading an insurrection through his failed attempt to impose martial law in December. However, the special counsel team specifically outlined 5 additional charges against him. These include violating the rights of cabinet members, revising the martial law proclamation, and obstructing his detention by investigators in January. Furthermore, he is charged with ordering the deletion of call records and the distribution of false statements. During the hearing, Yoon's lawyers disputed its charge, arguing the former president had declared martial law in an emergency and promptly lifted it following the National Assembly's vote for repeal. Yoon defended himself against allegations concerning a false proclamation that investigators believe was drafted after the decree was lifted to prove the legitimacy of his actions but later discarded. Meanwhile, the special counsel team requested that court conduct intensive hearings for a swift verdict. In response, the court stated its plan to hold hearings at least once a week, aiming to conclude the trial within 6 months. Moon Ji-young, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung will host Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba for a 2-day summit from September 30th, not in Seoul, but in Busan. Announced just hours ago, the top office said the leaders are set to hold talks at an official dinner in the southern port city. The visit follows the resumption of so-called shuttle diplomacy in August, where President Lee first suggested meeting somewhere else than Seoul. This will be the first time in 21 years that a Japanese prime minister has visited a Korean city outside Seoul for a bilateral summit since the 2004 meeting on Jeju Island. The agenda is expected to focus on future-oriented cooperation, strengthening trilateral security ties with the U.S., and discussing other shared regional and global interests. The South Korean stock market lost ground on this Friday in response to remarks by U.S. President Donald Trump, who claimed South Korea's $350 billion investment will be an advance payment. Our Park Jun-won covers his latest comments, their ripple effects, and broader implications.
U.S. President Donald Trump intensified pressure on South Korea on Thursday local time, insisting that the $350 billion investment package Seoul pledged in ongoing trade talks must be paid up front as a precondition for tariff relief. This remark, delivered during a White House signing ceremony for a TikTok deal, highlights the deepening differences of opinion in negotiations and escalates trade tensions between South Korea and the U.S. Following this announcement, South Korea's benchmark Kospi saw a significant drop of 2.4% on Friday compared to Thursday's market close.
There's growing uncertainty over investment talks between South Korea and the U.S., especially after Trump raised the issue of an upfront payment. That pushed the $1 rate to $14.10 and weakened investor sentiment. If talks collapse, higher tariffs and volatile exchange rates could further pressure local markets.
According to a Wall Street Journal report on Thursday, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has suggested Seoul increase the investment package beyond $350 billion, closer to Japan's $550 billion, with the U.S. looking for more of the funding to be provided in cash rather than loans. Lutnick stressed that although South Korea may not match Japan's $550 billion commitment, Seoul should accept similar terms. However, an economics professor claims that providing $350 billion in cash at present is impossible without a currency swap. And he said that immediately providing cash could harm the mutual interests of both South Korea and the United States.
People think South Korea has plenty of cash, but most of its $400 billion reserves are in U.S. treasuries, not cash. To raise dollars, South Korea needs to sell those bonds, which could shake the U.S. Treasury market. Japan would face the same situation, so it's unclear if that's good for the U.S.
Although specific terms for the investment package have not yet been agreed upon, negotiations are expected to remain difficult and could go on for an extended period. Park Jun-won, Arirang News.
On the cultural front, beyond government talks, it's culture that connects people. Seoul is showing how cultural exchange can tie nations closer together. Our Park Hyo-bin has more.
Dancing, music, and shared laughter. What may look like a festival is in fact a stage for diplomacy. Unlike traditional diplomacy that centers on government negotiations, public diplomacy brings citizens themselves to the forefront of culture exchanges. And this week, Seoul has become the very meeting ground as it hosts the 7th Public Diplomacy Week under the theme Connecting the World Together. More than 30 foreign embassies and cultural centers in South Korea are taking part.
The event is more than just seeing different cultures. It allows visitors to take part, which enables a real culture exchange to happen.
At Poland's booth, a lace-making session is in full swing. Visitors carefully weave lace out of thread finer than a strand of hair. Each stitch reveals the intricacy of Polish craft, drawing curious eyes and hands into the process.
I've always liked knitting, so when I heard this was traditional crocheting from a country I didn't know well, I was curious to try. It's more fun than I expected.
Meanwhile, at the Columbia booth, vibrant music fills the air as dancers perform the traditional rhythm, kumbancha. Moments later, a workshop transforms dance into dialogue as visitors learn steps and instruments directly from the performers.
Well, culture and arts can strengthen the diplomacy between the two countries. And today we brought music, but there are several other expressions, particularly in Colombia. So what we are trying to do is have a comprehensive portfolio of cultural expressions and basically literally cross the world to show it to Korea.
By using culture and art as a medium, the event demonstrates the power of public diplomacy that transcends borders. Organizers say it proves that diplomacy is not confined to meeting rooms, but can also flourish in everyday cultural exchanges.
Public diplomacy is about two-way exchange between our citizens and foreigners in South Korea, deepening mutual understanding and allowing people to share South Korea with the world while learning from other cultures.
Public Diplomacy Week, which runs until this Saturday, proves that in today's world, culture has the power to act as diplomacy itself. Park Hyubin, Arirang News.
There are many reasons to wait for Fridays, and one of them is definitely the arts and culture coverage by our culture correspondent Park Gun-woo. He's in the studio here with us. Happy Friday, Gun-woo.
Great to be here, Doyeon.
Now, you just got back from Jeju, and I see you brought something. Yes. Tell us what you saw.
So something's glowing right now, Doyeon.
Exactly.
So do you have any clue what this is?
I'm guessing it's a drone. I see the propellers.
Okay, yeah, correct. So it's actually a drone ball used in drone soccer. And I brought this all the way from Jeonju because the city is now hosting the Dronesoccer World Cup for the very first time, which kicked off on Thursday. And the place is buzzing with thousands of participants and visitors from more than 30 countries. Yesterday's opening ceremony truly felt like a big festival as I got to see many spectacular drone performances, including fireworks and light shows. During my visit, it felt like stepping into the future because who knows, in a few years, drone sports might even become part of the Olympics. But before I tell you more, come with me and I'll take you to the high-tech sports arena. After the referee blows the whistle, 5 players on each team start to fly for their fierce battle. Unlike regular soccer matches, it's not athletes running on grass. It's these spear-shaped flying machines buzzing through the air. This drone soccer ball looks just like any other sports ball, but once you switch it on, it's now ready to take off and fly into the ring that's set way above the ground. Controlled by each pilot, the drones each have their own roles. Those in attacking position aim to shoot, and those in defense block the rings. During the game, collisions are fierce, with drones crashing to the ground. But just like human players shaking off an injury, they quickly rise again and rejoin the game. Matches that are tied even go to penalty shootouts, where one drone has just 5 seconds to score as many as it can, while another drone blocks the ring. This intense competition is happening at the world's first Dronesoccer World Cup in Jeonju for 4 days through the weekend. Around 1,600 participants from 33 countries across 6 continents are taking part.
Drone is getting so popular in over the world, and then I looked into the whole game. It's a new sport, and it's really innovation, and it's so exciting.
Korean techniques are the highest level of all the world, so we came here to learn about how they play in teams, and also what material they use, because it's important how the drone is assembled.
As the birthplace of drone soccer, Korea has been dominating many of the matches, and some pilots share what's required to be a great player.
Piloting skills are the fundamentals, so I practice 4 to 5 hours a day. But as a team, communication is just as important, so we constantly shout instructions, who's attacking, who's defending during the game.
Both club members and national teams continue to compete, with the country versus country tournament narrowing down from the round of 16 all the way to the final. The top 3 teams will be able to win tens of thousands of dollars in prize money. As the World Cup shows how far drone technologies has flown, drone soccer may be the next game to really soar as it takes flight from Korea to the world.
Right, so I just learned 2 things. That's a ball.
Okay.
And that drone soccer was made in Korea. Yes. How did this happen?
Yes, so that was very interesting. The idea came from a researcher in an institute located in Jeonju dealing with advanced technology. And as China accounts for about 70 to 80% of the drone manufacturing industry, an official from the Federation of International Drone Soccer Association says Korea needed a new strategy for differentiation.
Aside from military use, most of the commercial drones are used for leisure, cameras, or agricultural purposes, which are dominated by China. We couldn't compete in that market, so we decided to focus on leisure drones and created Dronesoccer, the first of its kind in the world. We believe this could be flagship Korean content for the future.
He added that the sport became popular, especially during the pandemic, because it's non-contact. Currently, there are 24 countries as official members of the FIDA. And to tell you more about drone soccer itself, there are two official categories, Class 40 and Class 20, divided according to the size of the ball. And the 20 centimeters in diameter, which I brought into the studio, and the other 140 is, of course, a bigger one played on a bigger court. There are other demonstration sports at the World Cup, such as cracing, a portmanteau of crash plus racing, which is a race while avoiding many obstacles within a limited time.
Right. Now, we get that it's very popular globally, but let's talk about the drone industry with itself as we were talking about. How is it going so far in Korea?
Yes, so first of all, the Transport Ministry has announced a 5-year project, which is worth 75 billion won, or over $53 million, to develop drones, including delivery and agricultural models, starting this year. And aside from that, the K-Drone to World Festival is taking place until next month. The Dronesoccer World Cup, which I visited, is also part of this festival. Those interested in drone shows and special events like drone racing, please check the official website that you're seeing on the screen right now, as there are many more events set to be held in cities across Korea, including Namwon City down the road. And there are around 40 nationwide drone soccer competitions held each year, not counting many smaller local events. And as there are around 2,000 drone clubs, many more, as there are in Korea, operating across the country. Personally, I hope that I can participate in a drone soccer competition after practicing in a club, and I'm even aiming to become a referee, so wish me luck.
Well, I know you're talented in many things, so I'll be looking forward to your performance. Well, thank you again and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Doon, and I'm going to fly back home with my mini drones.
Oh.
Have a nice weekend.
Okay, thank you.
Today, late heat continued in the middle of the day, with daytime temperatures rising to 28 degrees Celsius in Seoul, exceeding the average temperature by about 3 degrees. It will continue to rise, getting up to nearly 30 degrees during the day tomorrow. A huge gap between morning and daytime temperatures will continue for the time being. It will rain in the Jeolla-do provinces and Jeju Island until tomorrow. About 10 to 60 millimeters of rain is expected on Jeju Island, and from 5 to 50 millimeters in the Jeolla-do provinces. Tomorrow morning will start cool at below 20 degrees in most parts of the country. Daily highs will move back to 27 to 28 degrees, with some clouds in the skies nationwide. On Sunday, rain will cover the whole country. Please bring an umbrella when you go outside. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is Newscenter for tonight. I'm Kim Do-yeon in Seoul. For all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and have a great weekend.
How to survive in Korea. Workplace. Step 1. Lunchtime. The most important morning routine is to check today's menu. Food is essential for survival. Memorize today's menu. The highlight of office life. Lunchtime. Rice in the bottom left, soup in the bottom right. The top is for the sides. The sauce and the spoon go here. This is the basic layout, but it's a bit odd to switch rice and soup. When you're done, pour the leftovers into the soup bowl. It doesn't look that appetizing, so wait until others are done eating. Step 2. Neng, nep, nenep. These are the most used expressions at work. Choose the most appropriate form. Neng, nep, nenep. Remember that the formal ne can sound a bit stiff. Did you just say yes? Absolutely not acceptable. You want to find the right word for the right occasion. Step 3. Desteria. Desteria is the oasis in the desert. Show them your character. If you're not the diligent type, get a stooky plant. Work is tough. Laugh and the whole world laughs with you. Weep and you weep alone. Stay put, like the stooky that survives in the desert. Hang in there until the end. Of course, you can always quit. You matter more than anything else. Step 4. Survival kit. Every worker needs a survival kit. Survival kit level 1. This position gets the most exposure. Grab one when you need a sugar boost. Always keep a few treats you can offer your co-workers. Survival kit level 2. These are for hunger pangs before and after a meal. You'll need them when you take a coffee break with your office buddies. Survival kit level 3. Trash talking your boss with your soulmate. Did you survive in the workplace? Office romance? Be careful. Even the photocopier knows all the gossip.
Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mo-gyan. This October, world leaders will gather in South Korea for the 2025 APEC Leaders Meeting, a pivotal moment for regional cooperation on emerging technologies, demographic challenges, and inclusive growth. Indonesia, one of the most influential economies in the ASEAN, has been steadily deepening its ties with South Korea, not only in trade and diplomacy, but also increasingly in digital innovation, infrastructure, and security. With Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto expected to visit Seoul and high-level exchanges now more active than ever, both countries are looking to translate this momentum into a long-term strategic alignment. For a clear direction on where this relationship is headed and how the upcoming APEC leaders meeting could shape it, we are joined by Sept Herawan, Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to South Korea. A big welcome, Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kim. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for joining us. So let's start right away. Like I've said, we're just weeks away from the APEC leaders meeting here in South Korea, and some major themes are already taking shape. So among AI, demographic shifts, and inclusive growth, which agenda is Indonesia watching most closely?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the question raised just now. As you may recall that President Prabowo on many occasions has stated that economic growth is one of his main priorities in running his administration. To this end, policies and programs to promote economic growth are designed inclusively to ensure that economic growth will benefit all Indonesians. Therefore, during the APEC summit, Indonesia will focus on key areas, particularly food security, through sustainable farming and innovative agricultural technologies, as well as energy transition. To support the inclusive economic growth efforts, the use of emerging technology, AI, must ensure a meaningful participation for all by empowering people, not displacing them. In this regard, Indonesia has consistently encouraged the implementation of good governance in AI, encompassing transparency, robust data protection, and safeguard against risk. Now on the issue of demographic change. While APEC member might be in different stages, Indonesia will emphasize the need to coordinate and cooperate in each member respective policy to ensure benefit of both aging and younger societies as one Asia-Pacific community.
Right. So, Ambassador, you've mentioned quite a lot of things, but from the beginning, you've focused on food security. Now, speaking of that, we want to elaborate. You recently led the Indonesian delegation at the APEC Food Security Meeting, where AI in agriculture was quite a hot topic. So, how is Indonesia actually applying digital tools in farming, and could South Korea be a partner in that effort?
Yes, Indonesia believes that digital technology could help in improving productivity by reducing the input waste, optimizing the supply chains, and enable data-driven decision-making for farmers and policymakers, as well as encouraging the use of AI, drones, smart sensor, and predictive analysis. However, we are also aware that technology alone is not enough. This is where Indonesia and Korea's partnership can play its role. We can work together on several areas. First, strengthening the required ecosystem to fully reap the benefit of AI in agriculture. Second, accelerating digital infrastructure development, especially in rural and remote areas, to ensure innovative can reach its intended user. And third, enhancing data literacy and digital training among farmers and supporting workers. And lastly, of course, forging partnership with the research institutions and universities to develop an AI-based agricultural solution tailored to local conditions in Indonesia. I think that's the work that we can having together with Korean partner.
Great. It's really interesting to hear how digital tools are reshaping such a traditional sector, and also how South Korea could fit into that picture as well. Now, Ambassador, we also hear that you've met with Gyeongsangbuk-do officials ahead of the summit to, discuss sister city ties as well. Could you tell us what kind of opportunities do you see for regional cooperation between the two countries?
Yes, Indonesia and Korea have long enjoyed close and meaningful regional cooperation. One of them is a sister province partnership between Gyeongsangbuk-do province and the special region of Yogyakarta, Indonesia. It started since 20 years ago in 2005. The cooperation has been very productive and beneficial. Concrete examples of collaboration and partnership between these two provinces are, among others, the Chemol Udong program and the exchange of personnel program. The Indonesian government is also currently in a close discussion to establish cooperation in a vocational education with Gyeongsangbuk-do province. Certainly, as a host of APEC summit in 2025, Gyeongsangbuk-do province will leverage its position because of the high-level exposure from the presence of the APEC leaders, and it will highlight Gyeongju city, including its cultural heritage as a prominent tourist destination. And at the same time, it will also enhance people-to-people contact, which will further encourage the strengthening of regional cooperation between the two countries, particularly Indonesia and Korea.
Right. So let's hope this regional partnerships could lead to, better long-term diplomacy between the two sides as well. Now, we are also seeing more of a high-level, top-level engagement with President Prabowo's visit expected, and special envoys already being exchanged. So how could this diplomatic momentum open doors for, areas of new cooperation between the two leaders?
As you may be aware, that Indonesia and Korea have enjoyed a very productive special strategic partnership since 2017. Both countries now have relatively new leaders with a similar visions. Therefore, I believe it is time to elevate the partnership to a higher level. The newly elevated partnership should be designed to deliver a more concrete result. This includes through the exchange of high-level official visits, as you mentioned, to create a sense of familiarity and understanding, a better understanding between the two countries. There is a saying in Indonesian, in Bahasa Indonesia, tak kenal maka tak sayang, or literally, you cannot love what you don't know. So to build on the stronger mutual understanding, it is important to recognize the economic sector as one of the key pillars of Indonesia and Korea relation as well. Despite geopolitical and geoeconomic challenges, the economic relations have consistently been strengthened. Korea is currently Indonesia's 7th largest investor, and Indonesian government is committed to facilitating more economic cooperation between the two countries, with the Minister of Foreign Affairs already also stipulated during his visit to Korea. For this objective, Indonesia, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and in close collaboration with other relevant ministries, will establish a small but very efficient and effective task force to facilitate smoother business cooperation between our two countries, to facilitating and the bottlenecking business activities between the two countries.
Right.
We are now in a very close coordination. We are now in a very close coordination with our counterparts here in Korea on possibly establish similar task force here in Korea. So it will be having a seamless organization between the two task force in Indonesia as well as. Thank you.
Right. So what you've said, it was a very bold, strong message. You can't learn what you really don't know. So we will look forward to, expanding understanding between the two countries moving forward. Now, when we look back a little bit, it's been over 5 decades since South Korea and Indonesia established diplomatic relations. So, Ambassador, in your view, what's allowed this partnership to remain so strong over the years?
Yes, first and foremost, as you mentioned, Indonesia and Korea's partnership is long built. The most key factor, I think, we are sharing common values: democracy, rule of law, respect for human rights, and multilateralism, as well as a vision of a peaceful and prosperous Asia-Pacific region. For years, these values have reflected and guided both countries' collaboration across various regional and multilateral fora. We were together in ASEAN, APEC, MICTA, as well as G20. These values are indeed the foundation of our rock-solid relationship. But then there is an X factor that makes Indonesia and Korea partnership sustained and resilient. And that is the complementarity nature of our partnership. This nature of partnership is especially important because it ensures mutually beneficial cooperation for both countries. It allows Indonesia and Korea to contribute and optimize their distinct strengths, drive more innovation and growth, and create synergy rather than friction. Indonesia, as you may know, is rich in natural resources. In such a strategic location as a hub for ASEAN and Pacific region, along with demographic bonus from its young population. While at the same time, Korea is the powerhouse of technology, innovation, and industrial expertise, and a source of credible investment. This is a unique opportunity to expand cooperation in so many potential areas: in commodities, energy transition, EV, infrastructure, digital innovation, and human resources development. Furthermore, Indonesia's leadership in ASEAN and Korea's posture in the Northeast Asia part have become very essential in bringing and reinforcing the role of both countries as partners in promoting peace, stability, and prosperity in the broader Asia-Pacific region. I think that's the key to what I'm seeing this situation right now.
Right. So this X factor of being complementary to each other, let's hope it could, further strengthen ties in the next 50 years to come. Now, beyond traditional economic ties, the two countries are now expanding into future-oriented sectors also, like digital transformation, smart infrastructure, and also carbon neutrality. So, Ambassador, from your perspective, which of these areas has the most potential for meaningful cooperation?
Yes, in recent years, these three sectors, as you mentioned, have indeed gained greater attention and focus in partnerships between Indonesia and Korea. Several projects are already underway in Indonesia. For example, on smart infrastructure, we have cooperation in water management, smart mobility, as well as smart cities. While on the digital technology, we have Korea's accelerator program for Indonesian startup, and of course, capacity building program on AI, data science, and digital policy development. While on the carbon neutrality, our EV cooperation is part of our effort toward a green economy. However, I would like to say that there is still much more untapped potential for a carbon neutrality partnership between the two countries. Indonesia is blessed with one of the largest tropical forest areas in the world, including the largest mangrove forest in the world, reaching around 3.3 million hectares, while has the potential to absorb carbon 12 times better than a tropical rainforest. Now, while at the same time, as an industrial-based country, Korea, which produces almost if my data is not mistaken, around 700 million metric tons of greenhouse gas emission in 2024, set the target to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. I think this creates an ample opportunity for Indonesia and Korea to develop a strategic environmental partnership, especially in the form of carbon offset and credit mechanism. And we already kickstart this cooperation last year when Indonesia and Korea signed an MOU focusing on the implementing the Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, facilitating cooperation in carbon market and emission reduction. Not only will this cooperation help both countries, Korea and Indonesia, to achieve their climate goals, but it will also support the sustainable growth by attracting investment into green economy, bolstering innovation of green technology, and of course, empowering the local communities. That's, I think, the benefit of this cooperation.
So that kind of forward-looking synergy could be a real driver for both economies. So shifting gears, cultural and people-to-people exchanges are also on the rise, Ambassador. How do you see Korean culture, so-called K-culture, playing a role in connecting the people of Indonesia and Korea more closely?
Yes, you're right, that the K-culture has become a powerful connector between Korea and Indonesia, especially among the younger generation. The global popularity of K-pop, K-drama, fashion, and cuisine resonate strongly in Indonesia, creating not only admiration, but also active participation through what's called fan communities, cultural events, creative collaboration. This enthusiasm naturally foster the curiosity about Korea's society and values. At the end, encouraging more Indonesians to learn Korean language, to study Korea, and engage in the exchange. At the same time, it opened an opportunities for reciprocal appreciation of Indonesian culture in Korea. Indonesia is a land of immense cultural diversity, with over 1,300 ethnic groups and centuries-old tradition. I would like to introduce this richness as well to Korea, connecting both more Indonesian and Korean people. For example, perhaps by expanding cultural festival to combine music, film, cuisine, fashion from both countries. Ultimately, the K-culture, more than entertainment, I believe. It is a bridge that inspires dialogue, collaboration, and respect. When coupled with Indonesia's rich cultural heritage, I believe it will also create a two-way cultural flow and also strengthening the foundation of our special strategic partnership, ensuring that our relation not only government-driven, more importantly, but it's also a people-centered and future-oriented, as you mentioned.
Right, so it's really already exciting to, see, the citizens of two countries exchanging their each cultures. Now, before we let you go, Ambassador, let's end with what's happening on the ground. So, what concrete programs is the Indonesian embassy running here in South Korea to further strengthen the relationship between the two countries?
Thank you very much. This is a very timely inquiry as my team and I are currently working on our work plan for 2006. Certainly, my mission is to have a series of activities to further introduce Indonesia comprehensively, not only in Seoul, but also in the regions all over Korea. I assume that we're going to have activities which include public lectures at the universities or even the high schools, and we can have a forum for engagement with the local business community, as well as the cultural promotion of Indonesian richness, which will conclude at the end. The flagship event will be held here in Seoul. I hope this will bring more benefit in strengthening the relation between Indonesia and Korea in all levels, including government, business, and most importantly, people-to-people engagement in the future.
Right, so it's really encouraging to see how diplomacy is being carried out not just through summits and official visits, but also through sustained programs on the ground. Ambassador Harawan, thank you so much for your time and for your insights tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It is an honor. Thank you.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame tonight. Thank you for joining us, and be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Until then, stay informed and engaged.
To set the facts straight. Get Korea right.
안녕하세요. 저는 인도네시아에서 온 방과 회원 무티아라 하이라니입니다. 반갑습니다. 인도네시아에 왔을 때 한국 드라마를 즐겨봤어요. 그러다가 한국에 와서 대학을 다니게 됐어요. 한국 사극 드라마도 즐겨봤어요. 왕과 왕비가 살고, 그리고 신하들이 회의를 하고, 그리고 궁녀들이 일하는 그런 궁궐에 관심이 생겼어요. 제가 제일 좋아하는 궁은 경복궁입니다. 그런데 AI한테 경복궁 그림을 보여달라고 했더니 그 엉뚱한 그림을 보였다는 제보가 있었어요. 예를 들면 궁 앞에 강이 있고 나룻배가 있다든지 산 꼭대기에 있다든지 이런 오해들. 제가 직접 경복궁을 소개해드릴게요. 같이 갈까요? 경복궁은 대한민국 역사와 문화의 중심지로 여겨져요. 조선시대 왕실의 그 위엄과 격식을 제대로 알 수 있는 곳이거든요. 또 경복궁은 외국인 관광객이 많이 방문하는 그 서울의 랜드마크 중 하나입니다. 제가 경복궁을 사랑하는 이유 이제 아시겠죠? 한국에 대한 잘못된 정보를 바로 찾는 일, 여러분도 함께 해주세요.